Hello, and welcome to another edition of A Parson's Progress. Two swords to show you, as promised. People did ask. What you have here in hornbeam, they do these in red oak, which is a bit softer than white oak. White oak is normal. This came from the Ukraine, and hornbeam is also equally hard, but the reason I like this one is that along here you can see that it says Kotori Shinto Ryo, which is the martial art that I used to practice. So it's a lovely looking thing. The reason why it's wood is that obviously it's not as sharp on the cutting edge. But you could still give somebody a nasty bruise, couldn't you, with that? But it's usually used for paired work in Kotori Shinto Ryo. And it's known as a bakuto, or as they often say in this country, a bokken. But the Japanese call it a bakuto, which means hard wood, I believe, or hard tree. So there we go. That is your wooden bakuto, as used in Iaito and various koryu forms of martial arts, kenjutsu. Nice thing. This was quite expensive. Comes from Japan. I think it's called Nosyudo. Is it? Something like that. I'll put it in the description. I have got nicer bags in the back of the container, but there is my sword. Took some working out how on earth I was going to get one legally, but I've managed it. I will show you some close-ups. Excuse my dirty fingernails. Someone commented on them the other day, but then when you spend a life entrenched in dirt and pipe tobacco, you're going to get a bit of dirt under your fingernails. Sorry for that. You're going to have to suck it up. I can see by your hands that you're a man of the land, I think somebody once said. You're a man of the land. And I am a man of the land, and I spend time with my hands in dirt and muck and filth, and I'm not going to scrub up just to obviate the sensibilities of any viewers. Anyway, I've departed from what I wanted to talk about. Yes, I was just talking about this. Normally these would be sort of blue or black, and this would be that. This is called the saya, which is the scabbard. This is called the suba. And inside there, you can't quite see it, perhaps do a close-up of that too, is ray skin. Sometimes they call it shark skin, but it's actually ray skin. You'll see the little pebbles behind this fabric, which is called the ito. And those are called makugi, those things that are in there. I've got two of them in there. And there's a little peg there, which if you knock that out, I can take this off. And you could change what they call the suba, which is this piece here. And they're very ornate, and sometimes the antique subas, are of great value. These two bits here are called the fuki kashire. Fuki kashire. And they're often beautifully, again, on antique pieces. These are works of art in themselves. So, a lovely thing. This thing here is called the sagio. Now, this is far too long for my particular school of martial art. It needs to be chopped. Probably about there. But they come in this size because there are some martial arts that when they put them into their obi, this is your obi, they tie them in such a way that this bit hangs down here. In the Kotori school, when you're about to assume a kata, you literally, they just throw it over the back like this. So they tend to be a bit shorter. But that is the Sagio. The sword itself is rather nice. This guy's a nice Midariganome Hamon, they're called. That's the temper line. When a samurai sword is made, they apply clay, soft clay, in a particular pattern, and sometimes it will denote the swordsmith. But there are various patterns. Sugaha is where the clay is just straight along, so you get a temper line that is just straight. But this is in curvy waves. There are some that are lovely. I've got one sword, I've got numerous swords where they come over it and form almost a crab's claw, which is particularly pleasing. So there you have your katana. That's called the habaki, this bit here. And those again can be quite ornate. Sometimes they have lines on them, which they call a cat's claw, which is quite pretty. That bit in there that holds everything in there is called the seppa. That small bit at the end, you can see a sort of line going there, that curvature, that's called the kisagi. And some of them can be a bit longer, a bit shorter. This is equally proportioned. The end bit is the kisagi. The bit that's doing all the cutting really is this bottom third. As you're bringing it down. But a lovely thing, I think, Nosyudo, I think these are called. I've probably got that wrong. I get everything wrong. I was calling Isla whiskey Isla whiskey. I called my Ben Wade pipe a Bob Wade pipe all yesterday evening. I'm very tired yesterday. And so I probably pronounced this wrong too. I have a lovely sort of group of audience from all around the world, and they do correct me, and quite rightly so. I was corrected on something else recently, but I'm not quite entirely sure what. I'm always being corrected. But that is the sword, and it's quite pleasing. You get a swish, which may be picked up by the camera, it might not. This along here is sometimes called the blood groove. It's a bit of the steel is removed there, and some people like it because it just gives a swishing sound. But it's not, it's to ease the passage of your blade when taking out of your opponent after you just killed him. Hence probably the word blood groove. But it also makes the sword lighter by the removal of that steel. And of course, traditionally, this would have been made of tameshigiri steel, iron ore. And they're constantly folded over in the forge to make them extremely strong, but also flexible. So that is my sword that has come all the way from Japan. I hope you've enjoyed looking at it. But it's a lovely thing, and it's not quite the same sword as it. Who was the fellow on Kill Bill? Hanzo Hattori. It's not quite him, but it'll do for me. Anyway, I think that's a nice little description of what came for those people who were interested and asked if I would show them the swords. I won't do any more action videos today, but I may do on another occasion if you like. Anyway, I thought while the sun is shining, I'd just come out and show you those, so I hope you appreciated them. See you in a bit. Hello friends, Managed to come up to the cottage for a wee chat. I hope you enjoyed watching me swinging my sword about, as the blacksmith has just told me over the phone, like a madman or something. Words to that effect. Thanks for that, James. I'm going to have a port. I was out of port, but I think you'll remember that Tesco's came. When was it? Was it last night or the night before? Anyway, they brought me some tawny port. So I thought I'd have a wee dram in my wonderful bell brass tankard. Hope you're all well. Lovely sunny day. We've got good weather, I think, for a while now. I put that decking oil, you'll have seen it on one of the videos. Cheers. And that's drying nicely. So I'm pleased about that. And thanks for the advice to get it oiled. I probably wouldn't have bothered otherwise. I get lots of lovely advice. I had some advice about cleaning my vulcanite stem. I need to give my stem a good polish. I don't on this one. I'm on the Eric Nording today. Well, that's kind of browned up a bit. I suppose I could give that a clean too, really, while I'm at it. It's more the this is so funny on the Ben Wade, not the Bob Wade pipe. But there was a refurbishing fellow of pipes on the internet, and he recommended Mr. Clean It something or other, whatever. You get these sponges with some sort of, and they're apparently they're marvellous. He recommends those. You can use bleach, for example, but it leaves it slightly pitted, and then you've got to buff it up. And my buffing wheel, yes, you guessed it, is in the back of the container. So I've ordered some of that. That should come tomorrow, and I'll give this one and the other vulcanite, I think these are the only two with vulcanite, a polish and see how we get on. And I'll show you if I'll show you the before and after. So I get lots of lovely advice, even on pronunciation. And so you should. There's nothing wrong with filial correction. That's what we used to do with the last Pope, you know. Whenever we had a disagreement with him, we would call it a filial correction. That's basically being bollocked by people that want to appear friendly. It's called a filial correction. So, oh, that's nice. I've missed my port. So it's good to be corrected. So thanks for that. It's also good to be sat down. I did ask the blacksmith to come round tonight. Well, he's been shoeing horses all day and he's absolutely knackered. And I know that feeling. If I've appeared somewhat brusque for the last two videos, it's because I've been tired, because we do get tired, don't we? And I was tired on the last, I literally was dog tired on the last two videos. But I know you'd miss me if I didn't speak to you every night. And when I'm like that, I can be a bit terse. I can be a bit brusque. But I'm well rested today, so I'm in a sublime and light mood. I hope you can feel a difference of atmosphere. It's amazing what a good night's sleep and a restful day is. When you're tired, everything's just a nightmare, isn't it? You become pessimistic and depressed and fed up. And everything's all too much. And then you could have a good night's sleep, and the next day, everything is light and airy and wonderful. But of course, I did say words to the effect that, you know, I appear naked on this show, in that I'm transparently me. It is the unvarnished Father John that you see on a daily basis. And I think that's important. So it's like being married or having any other relationship. You see your spouse on good days, bad days. You don't stop loving them. I think that's part of what I'm trying to do on this show, is that encourage people to be themselves. I was going to talk about my fireplace. The good blacksmith, farrier, has a foundry somewhere with a blacksmith that works alongside. And I've been having difficulty getting a swan nest fire basket. They do come up second hand on Tinternet, but you've got to go and pick them up, and they're miles and miles, they're hours away, and you never know when one's going to come up or not. So I thought I'd phone my good friend up to see if he had one in his barn. But anyway, cut a long story short, there may be a possibility that we can, between us all, make one. So one of the jobs I have to do today is measure up depth, width and height, and see how we get on. It'd be lovely to have something made locally going into a local cottage that is hundreds of years old. I'd like that. It's all part of bringing this place back to life again, which I hope people around here appreciate, rather than it just falling into a pile of rubble amidst all the trees. Anyway, I shall be doing that tonight. And there's something rather wonderful, isn't there, in, having things handmade. I don't think this pipe by Eric Norden was handmade, because I've seen this pattern before. Pipe's very similar to this. It has an actual pattern type name. Whereas the Ben Wade is a freehand one-off. Handmade and a one-off. And that's the thing, isn't it, about blacksmiths and pipe makers and carpenters. They can do one-off bespoke pieces. And I like that because it means they're unique, they're like no other. In other words, there may be pipes almost similar to this out there, but the Ben Wade I was smoking yesterday, there isn't one like that anywhere else on the planet. Indeed, the cosmos. And I like that. And it would be nice to have a bespoke swan's nest fire grate in there. And there's a very nice fellow, a carpenter, in Bishop's Castle, not far away. And he does all sorts of woodworking, including beamage, crook beams. It'd be lovely to have a local craftsman put oak crook beams into this place upstairs and in the chapel next door. So there are things that are in the pipeline. I've got to get the people out to see if we can put a borehole in. I need to speak to one of my neighbours who I know has got a borehole, and find out how he got along and who he used. But I haven't bumped into him recently. And you tend to bump into people on the track up there when you're taking stuff up to the bins and whatever. Which is always nice to run into the local population, such as it is. Population is probably too large a term, really, for the amount of people who live up here. But yeah, so the borehole thing, I need to give them a ring next week. We've got the landscaping to do. Because some of you are probably thinking, why don't you get on with the house? But you can't really get on with the house until you can get around the house. And there's just too many huge, massive, great logs. You need to get scaffolding up. Get the stonemasons in, get a roof on. Won't stop the interior. I can't quite make up my mind whether I need to sandblast the walls or just get one of those pneumatic drill things and just do it by hand. Because there's a lot of concrete that was just slapped on these old stones, weren't there, in the 60s and 70s. And it's not particularly nice, and it all needs to come off. Let it breathe, let these walls breathe, get some lime pointing up. But I can be getting on with all of that, even before everything else starts to be done. So it's all rather fun, and everything happens as it should happen and in the right order. I'm in no hurry. It's a good bug out spot, this as well. You know, we get those hurricanes in autumn and winter and whatever coming through, endangering life and limb. I can sleep in here. I'm going to put a temporary sort of cooker thing on one of those. They're quite deep, these windowsills. I'm going to make a little kitchen and have my bed where I meditate. I can have a lovely fire going in there and I shall be safe because all the trees have come down around the house. Most of them. Still one big one at the back there, but I don't think it can reach here. So anyway, yes, I do like a handmade pipe, and I like a handmade piece of ironmongery, and I like handmade wooden items. Because as I say, they're all a one-off, aren't they? And we're all one-offs, if you think about it. Sometimes you'll see people who sound like you or look like you. You'll see actors on when you're watching the films, won't you, of an evening, and you say, "Who's he? Who's he? Oh, I tell you who would be good in that part. So and so. He looks just." You know, and there are some people who are similar to each other, and you say, "No, no, no, it's not that actor. That you're thinking of another actor because they look alike." But the wonderful thing in God's economy is we're all absolutely precious, cherished, and individual. We are literally handmade and one-offs. And people often forget how special they are and how cherished they are. And they get utterly depressed, some suicidal. But I think it's very important that all of us watching this programme tonight realise just how special and what one-offs we are. So when you're in a low moment, remind yourself of that. It's like those Japanese swords. No two alike. You could have the same blacksmith, the same forger, with a tamashigiri iron ore, which they smelt and fold and refold. And they apply the hamon, that shape, to temper the edge. But no two are exactly the same. And that's wonderful, isn't it? To own things which are one-offs. And of course, we're not so much owned, but certainly cherished by God. Because we are one-offs. We're precious, we're cherished. Always worth remembering that. In your darkest moments, or when you feel guilty, or when you feel bad. And it's always important to realise that God loves us often more than we love ourselves. That doesn't mean he gives us a free pass and we can just be wayward in our lives. But it doesn't mean we're loved. You remember the parable of the prodigal son. He had a good son, didn't he, and a bad son. And the bad son became wayward and squandered all his inheritance, and then came back and wanted to be treated as if nothing had happened. And the son that had stayed by his father's side all this time, working the land, it was fed up with this, because when the prodigal son came back, they threw a great big party for him. And he said, "Look, I've been all this time in handless, tending the beasts, feeding the chickens, renovating the cottage. You never threw me a feast, and I've been with you all this time." And he said, "Ah, yes, my son, but you I've always had. But he was lost, and now he is found." So even when we're wayward, our Lord loves us. And that's a miracle, especially if you're somebody like me. So there's your sermon for tonight, because I'm in a good mood. I thought I'd give you one. But it's a lovely, lovely, lovely day. I'm really enjoying living here. I'm very blessed. It's a marvellous place to be. I'm very fortunate. At some point it'd be nice to get people over. I'm a bit of a recluse though, so even though I look very sort of open and fun and one thing and another on camera, I do sort of cherish my own company, and I get slightly jittery at the thought of meeting people often. I don't mind just bumping into people, but I get a bit worked up, especially with people I don't really know, at meeting them for the first time. I'm even like that with workmen. I'm not shy, I'm just reclusive and private. So I never intend to be rude. But things may change in time as I become more established here. I hope you're all well. I have some shout-outs while I'm here. Kirk from Kansas has bought me another plethora of coffees. Thanks, Kirk, for that. It all helped. And I think it was called Craig, bought me a whole raft of coffees, loads of them, and that was extraordinarily generous. So yeah, thanks for. I think it's Craig. So if you're watching, Craig, thanks for that. Chris over at Harriet Pipes got back to me about vulcanite stems and what to do with my broken meerschaum. So thanks for that, Chris. And another guy recommended some snuff, Elmo's or something, and so I bought some. And it reminds me of tobacco I used to smoke, the snuff I used to take, which I can't really remember what it was called now. It's the same sort of thing. I still prefer my menthol, my Hedges, but I shall work my way through that tin. Quite nice. And really, that's about it for tonight. I have to say that I had Merlot out of my tankard last night, and I'm having tawny port out of it tonight. And you really would think that drinking out of brass, it would be, you know, I don't know, a bit odd, but it's not. I find drinking out of silver goblets much worse. When I was in the army, we'd have what we call mess nights, and all have our finery on. And all the silver would be out on the long tables. We'd all be sat there, and the port would be going round and everything else. But when we met, prior to sitting down, we'd be given regimental goblets to drink wine from, and beer and other things. And the beer used to taste awful out of silver goblets. I don't know what beer will taste out of that, but certainly the port and the Merlot taste okay out of it, so I'm going to continue with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So anyway, I'll leave it there. But go away with that one thought at least, that you are precious, you are cherished. Some of you may be wayward, some less so, but you're equally loved by the Father. And I'll catch you on the next video. This is Father John signing out, in a much better mood. So with that, I'll love you and leave you. And may God go with you. God bless.